right, welcome back everybody to the Smart Growth for Water Table Talks. We're glad to have you back here for episode number 4. We're here today with Dr. Brian Haggard with the Arkansas Water Resources Center, and I'm Becky Roark, Director for the Beaver Watershed Alliance, joined by Leif Kinberg, Director for the Illinois River Watershed Partnership, and we're excited to get to do these with our area leadership. And for those of you that may just be joining, we are sitting down with leaders in Northwest Arkansas to talk about water and their perspectives on growth and how that all balances out for the region. So we have a few questions for Dr. Haggard. So if you're ready, we'll just dive right in.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So how does the Arkansas Water Resource Center, how are you involved in water protection or water resource management? And can you describe the role of the Arkansas Water Resource Center here in Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, I can. The Arkansas Water Resource Center is part of a national network of water institutes across the country. Every state has one. The District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. I haven't visited that center yet, but it's on my list to go to. And Guam. And all the centers get a small amount of federal funding that we then distribute within the state. And that's one of the key ways that we address water issues in the state of Arkansas. And so we take that money and we distribute it out in small faculty grants to help faculty that are just starting their research programs in water, or if they're transitioning to a new research area. We also fund smaller grants for graduate students to give them a little bit of funding to do something extra with the research that they're already doing. And just recently we started a Water Fellows program, which is kind of cool. We hire students that actually work for other faculty. And so they don't work for us. I mean, they work for the center financially, we pay them, but they're doing water research for other faculty. And then one of the other great things that we do at the Water Center is the conference we put on every summer. You're a co-sponsor, and we have 225 people last year that attended that conference.
Yeah.
It's a great conference.
It is a great conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think the outreach component of that is, something great that we do, just like what you're doing here, where you're bringing all the water professionals in Northwest Arkansas. And that conference is across the state together to talk water issues specific to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. And the science, that's so important to water and water quality, is understanding the science and bringing people together to talk about the science. So you're definitely a leader in that sector here in the region. And so that's why we're excited to have you here today to talk more about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dr. Haggard, in 2023, you all conducted a study on water quality trends in the Illinois River Watershed and the Beaver Lake Watershed. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. One of the things that the Water Center's been doing for the last several decades is collecting water samples at various spots within your two watersheds. And we've been just building a database over time. And every few years we analyze that data looking at trends. And when I say trends, I'm talking about how is water quality changing over time? Is it improving? Is it staying the same? Or is it getting worse? And, most of the time in the Illinois River, we talk phosphorus. That's the big key in the Illinois River watershed. And especially right at the state line where our watershed flows into Oklahoma. And so, with regards to phosphorus, we've been able to track all the improvements made in the wastewater treatment plants, the watershed management changes that have happened, and seen phosphorus concentrations decline over time. On the Beaver Lake side of things, our drinking water supply, we've been tracking that as well for decades. And, the great thing there is I feel like we have good water quality and we want to maintain that level of good water quality. And so the great thing we're seeing there is that not much is changing, but there are some things that kind of, that I think we need to focus on, which is the increasing trend in nitrogen in the War Eagle Creek Basin and some things like that. And so the benefit of having this long-term data is, knowing which basins have water quality that are shifting that can influence, the quality of our drinking water supply or the quality of our recreational waters or Siloam Springs water supply.
Yep, great.
Yeah, and we use that data a lot from you, and just working to develop the watershed management plan for the watershed groups. And so it's all really important work. So thank you. So do you feel like the science is a part of the conversation enough? Or do you feel like there's more opportunity to bring in the science while we're talking about growth and planning and water management?
I do think Northwest Arkansas has been great about, putting emphasis on what the data tells us and the science. I think science could always enter into the picture a little bit more. And, just trusting the data that we have and the data that we collect and the story that the data is telling us. I really think like one thing, we know low impact development practices benefit both in terms of stormwater and water quality. I think there's maybe a little gap there where we need some more site-specific studies in Northwest Arkansas to really understand the impact of those practices and, how they're improving water quality and retaining stormwater. But I do think in Northwest Arkansas, at least this area, people trust the data. And I think that's really important to trust the data and the science that we have.
Yeah.
Do you see that data being used by certainly the watershed management organizations, but others in the community? And if so, how do you think it's really effectively being used?
I think it can benefit everyone, all the stakeholders. I think for, the watershed managers, where to focus or where to target resources to improve water quality. For the state agencies, it helps guide them to understand how things are changing and where they need to put resources. I think locally for, people that live in the city, people, the farmers and others in the rural landscape, we have a lot of data across Northwest Arkansas. I mean, I kind of we're data rich and data poor is what I often say, It's like we have a lot of data, but I think the data can give people context as to, what is the water quality in the stream that they live near or in the watershed that they live in.
Yeah. And just to follow up, do you feel like there's any groups that need to be working together more when it comes to the science and bringing that into the conversation?
I do think Northwest Arkansas is unique in that we have the watershed organizations that bring people together. Your boards represent, the variety of the stakeholders that live within our watersheds. And so, just from having that brings people to the table. Our state agencies are, very focused on water quality across the state. Our municipalities are. Beaver Water District, you had Lane Kreider on earlier. That organization's very focused on water quality. I do think getting to, when we're thinking about development in Northwest Arkansas growing to 1 million people, which is crazy to me, I do think that reaching out more to the developers and getting them to understand that, the changes that we're making on the landscape are going to influence things downstream. And making sure that we bring them to the table so that they understand the need for these low impact development practices and stormwater practices to try to reduce, both the flow of water, that stormwater runoff from impervious areas, as well as, maintain the water quality that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can people find out more about the science and finding more about water quality and
I think you can follow all of our organizations on social media is one great way.
Yeah.
You can participate in stream cleanups and a lot of those indirect educational practices that we all do. If you're really bored at night, I think you could, go on Google Scholar and read some papers that have been written about water quality issues. It'd be a great way for, you to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But I mean, we do have a lot of information out there on on water quality in Northwest Arkansas. And I did my master's here studying Beaver Lake and the water quality of the streams. My first job was with the USGS studying water quality in the Illinois River Basin. So, I've been working in this region for 30 years studying water quality. And, I think we have a lot of good information out there. And, some easy things to do is just Google that. I'm always surprised at what you can find. And there's both the the technical papers out there, the manuscripts that are published in the journal. Hopefully we're doing a better job at making those more easily readable to the general public. But then also just what your organizations and other organizations do to help translate that technical information into something that resonates with the general public.
Just one last question for you, and just asking everybody, what do you love about Northwest Arkansas?
Oh my gosh. When I got my master's here 30 years ago, we had a group that went fishing every Wednesday afternoon. And I actually took my son fishing last night on the West Fork, just kind of, by the airport, by Drake's Field, where the restoration was. And so I love being able to get outside. I mean, my partner and I, we go hike to waterfalls here. The outdoor activities are amazing. And, I love playing golf too. So I love getting outside. And so, I mean, if I'm not working, you can probably find me hiking on the river or on the golf course, and not necessarily in that order, depending upon the day. But Northwest Arkansas's, been home to me for 25 years now. Again, I grew up in Fort Smith, so I'm a native Arkansan, and fished all around, I call it down south, but it's only an hour from here. And just, I just love the area that we have. And I think we're kind of blessed with good water quality here and really great river fishing.
Yeah.
Probably some of the better river fishing that's less known to other people. And, I want to help keep it that way for us.
That'll be another podcast. All the outdoor fun we have here in Northwest Arkansas.
Some fishing tips coming down the road.
Well, thank you, Brian, Dr. Haggard, for being with us this morning. I really appreciate all you're doing and your team. Phenomenal staff there at the Water Resource Center. And we just really appreciate all the work you're doing for just not only this region, but for Arkansas. So.
Well, and I appreciate you mentioning my team, because that is one of the most important things. It's not just, it's not me, it's my team that does all the great work.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that get to have the fun and get out and collect the water samples. And, I enjoy analyzing the data. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that wraps it up for today for our table talk. And just as a reminder, we do have our Smart Growth for Water Resources Conference coming up April 2nd and 3rd, only a few weeks away. So you can go to our website, beaverwatershedalliance.org, and find the registration there. We still have scholarships available for those in the city staff and decision makers. And we look forward to the conference coming up. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.